The beta for the upcoming Avengers game has been released for those of us that pre-ordered the game, and many of you saw me play it for about 9 hours on stream the other day. So what are my thoughts? Who is this game for, and who will enjoy it? Let this video serve as my review, but also just overall thoughts on playing the game. The footage you are watching will not necessarily match exactly what I'm talking about, as it's just a long clip, unedited, of the original stream. With that being said, you may see a couple of frame drops, jitters here and there. That doesn't necessarily mean that was the game itself that was doing it. It may be the stream, because again, I was recording this. Once the game is released, I will be streaming this on YouTube. All comic book related material I'll stream here on YouTube, not on any other platform. And before we go all the way in on my experiences, I need you guys to understand this. To people that don't watch my streams or my videos, I am a comic book guy. I think that's very important, because that's the perspective that I'm coming from. So a lot of what I say, you gotta take that into consideration. I'm a guy that covers a lot of comic book related material on this channel, not just movies or the MCU. I'm a guy that's knowledgeable on these characters, and that's what I want to see come to life. So I think that's very important for me to mention, because that's going to, of course, influence my perspective on this game. And of course, if you want a lot of comic book related material and videos, you should subscribe to this channel. But let's dive in. So the beta takes you through some of the story first and foremost. Hopefully you've watched some of the developer streams and the videos and know what the story is all about, because I'm not going to go into too much detail on it in this video. That's because the main story doesn't seem to be the big focus of the game. There's no aims in it. They seem to be the main adversaries, and you're pretty much fighting all of them or trying to, let's say, destabilize them. Now, you get to play with pretty much all of the characters that are going to be ready at launch through some of the main story missions. That's Thor, Iron Man, Hulk, Captain America, Black Widow, and Kamala Khan. Yes, Kamala Khan. After you complete those main story missions, you can then play the War Table missions. These are a total of 12 missions across 4 different regions. You can select through 4 different difficulties, and you can even play these co-op online. That you only can use 4 players and 4 characters, excuse me. That's Hulk, Iron Man, Kamala Khan, and Black Widow. And it looks like you can only play with 1 character per player. So you're not going to be able to have 4 Hulks out there, for example. And this experience, this co-op experience, is of course the draw of the game. The footage that you're watching right now, I played with one of my mods who was using Iron Man as I used the Hulk, and the other 2 characters, and Kamala Khan and Black Widow, were played by the companion AI. So that is an option if you only have one of your bros online. So now you know the gist of what you're going to be able to get out of the beta when you're playing it. As I said, I got about 9 hours or so before I completed the beta, and I still can go back and go play through those missions if I want and continue to level up those characters. So let's break down different aspects of the experience. Let's start with the most important part, and that's the gameplay. This type of gameplay is what I generally envision a multiplayer superhero game being. We are talking action RPGs, but not just mere hack and slashes. Yes, there are heavy and light attacks, but there are also things that you're going to need to telegraph depending on the type of mood. There's also perfect dodging, similar to Ghost of Tsushima and other games. So it does a great job of being pacey, fast, and chaotic even in some cases, but it's not without skill. This is the future of gaming for me, especially with comic book based video gaming. We need action RPGs, not mere turn-based combat, not simple load up moves in which all the characters kind of play the same. We need something that captures the essence of superhero fighting through an RPG experience, while also being skill based in its combat. This is not an easy thing to do. This can get rather complicated, but when it's done, it's incredibly fun and immersive. I set the bar really high when it came to my expectations. This looked like a bold game, but I didn't want just a more realistic version of Ultimate Alliance. And fortunately, this game is not just Marvel Ultimate Alliance with better graphics. Of the 6 different characters that we got to use, all of them played differently. Not just differently, drastically differently. I played with the Hulk during the War Table missions, and he's obviously a tank with more like crowd control. He's there to deal as much damage as possible to multiple enemies in the same area. He can clear the scene. He has this thing called like Rage, in which you hold R2 in, if you're on PS4 of course, and he takes all of this damage and he's giving damage, and it's giving him more HP. He can also grab enemies and run around with them. You can grab an enemy and start swinging that enemy at another enemy. He's incredibly fun to play with, but you immediately can tell that he serves a purpose. He's there to do a certain thing or be a certain type of character. He's not simply some overpowered being. There are obviously certain missions that you're gonna do in which you're gonna need him or a character like him that can do what he does. And he plays nothing like, let's say, Thor, for example, who we only got to play with briefly at the beginning of the beta. And holy crap, hitting people with that Mjolnir feels great. We didn't get much time with him, but you can throw the Mjolnir at people. You can obviously bring it back. Captain America is probably someone I would main with, as I had some really fun like melee combat with him. You can throw the shield, of course, hit multiple enemies with it, which again, he plays differently than the other characters. The point I'm trying to make is that all of the characters play so differently, and this is how it should be. This is the level of detail that's important if you're going to do a game like this, and I appreciate their dedication to making the characters not only just play differently, but also in a way that makes sense if you're familiar with those characters. Iron Man can fly, so you can imagine his aerial attacks. They're going to be very necessary. It's very fun to play with him. He can mix it up though a little bit, and like can bring the Hulk Buster out as a special move. He was incredibly fun to play with during the story, and it seems like this game wants you to master certain characters, but it's also important that you, if you're gonna play with other people, y'all work together and they can do their jobs. You're gonna need a person like the Hulk. Make sure Hulk isn't just jumping around being stupid, and he's crowd controlling, if you catch my drift. It's gonna be important for certain missions. The combat is also surprisingly smooth. It's not clunky. It is responsive even online. And though there are occasional frame drops when it gets kind of chaotic, you got VFX all over the place, it's still for the most part smooth. The only character I didn't like playing with was Kamala Khan, aka the current Miss Marvel. Let me just say that she's the worst part of the game, or of the beta. Yes, I've never liked her. Yes, I've stated that she shouldn't even be in this game unless she was going to be there as an add-on, but the dialogue with her is just so annoying. Her moves are goofy. They made an attempt though, they're trying to utilize her little stretchy powers. But her, I guess, swinging around does kind of give you an idea of what they can do with Spider-Man when they do bring him out. She's just so out of place, and it's odd that they centered this entire thing around her bringing the Avengers back together. I would have much rather them went with the OG Avengers. Most of them are already there, and they had Wasp there instead of Kamala Khan, even if it meant swapping out Cap with, let's say, Ant-Man, who will be in the game at a later date. She seems like a character that Marvel like forced on to Crystal Dynamics, like, hey man, if you're gonna make this game, you gotta have her be the center of it. And they of course forced her on you. I was getting a life zapped out of me every time I had to play with her, so Kamala Khan is certainly the worst part of the beta. Black Widow, though, she was really fun. She can shoot guns and all kinds of stuff. The overall gameplay was just awesome, and there's a lot of potential there. We're going to talk about that a little later. They have like these cool team-based moves, and there's like moves that can also impact your teammates. The game also looks very good from a graphic standpoint. The voice acting can be a little bit cheesy, but some of it's decent, and like the voice actor for Hulk does a pretty good job. The video you're watching, you can see a lot of the gameplay, so I hope you're paying attention to all of that. I don't think I show a lot of the boss battles. Those are like way different from fighting regular enemies, so it's really fun. I think the important thing to grab from the gameplay is that the characters just play so much different when you compare them to each other, and it makes sense in terms of the characters that you're using. So if you're familiar with them, you're a Hulk fan, Hulk plays like you'd imagine Hulk would play, which is different from Thor, which is different from Captain America. So them being able to differentiate that and paying attention to the detail is really a good thing that they did. But let's get to the character upgrading and the loot system. Aside from the gameplay, this is going to be the biggest part, as this is what's going to incentivize you to continue to play the game. So You can level up your player up to like level 15 if I'm not mistaken in the beta. Again, I play the war table missions as the Hulk, don't forget that. And as you go through the missions, you of course are leveling the character up while also unlocking skill points for all of that character's, let's say, moves. In terms of unlocking them, you need skill points to unlock the individual moves. And throughout the stage or whatever mission that you're doing, there's chests, there's all kinds of loot when you kill certain enemies. So it's kind of what you would expect. It's real like Destiny-esque in that element. And for Hulk, the skills were broken up in 4 categories. You had combat, heavy attack, grab attacks, and rage. Of course, this differs from other characters and from character to character. Iron Man, for example, has 4 categories, but his are melee, repulsors, lasers, and rockets. To unlock each skill, you need skill points, and for some, you have to follow like this tree and unlock another move before you can buy and use the next. I'm not sure how the final game will work, but in the beta, you could unlock every one that they had available, every move. So I'm not sure if they're going to like be moves that you simply can't equip alongside another move. I hope that's actually the case, because that'll make each version of the character that you use, like your Hulk will be different from my Hulk if that's the case. There's also gear, which you'll be collecting over the course of the game, picking them up throughout the different levels and stages or as rewards upon completion. It looks to be 4 different gear types that you'll be collecting for each character, and all of them are going to have different perks that will do endless amounts of things. These can be individually upgraded with different resources that you'll also be collecting throughout the stage. Each gear item will level up certain attributes and things like might and precision. And you can also collect artifacts that can be used for different things such as fire resistance. These will be very useful depending on what kind of stage you're on or what enemies you're fighting. And all of this combined will give you a rating in 4 different categories of melee, ranged, defense, and heroic. None of the upgrades seem to impact like the look of the character. That's another section in its own. That's in the cosmetics section, where you have outfits which change the way the character looks altogether. These are the skins. In this section, you'll see emotes and nameplates as well. The next little selection or tab in the character editing menu are the collections. Here, you can collect comics, actually, real comics, throughout the game, or they're more so versions of the real comic. I don't think you can actually read the full comic in the game or anything, but getting them gives you like boosts and stats. There is also this like intelligence and codex section, which are basically things you're learning about the game and the characters along the way. Then there's these social tabs where you can kind of team up with your bros and getting them in the same strike team and whatnot. There's also this challenge card tab. It's actually the last tab, and it has daily and weekly missions that you can do with each character. And I guess each character has their like individual hero challenge card, and you can unlock all sorts of things as you're playing with them, from like resources to different skins. Before I give my overall thoughts, I just wanted to let you know what you can expect with the beta. It's a fairly detailed beta, and you learn a lot about the game. This was a bold thing to do. This was bold to put this out, and it really shows the confidence that the developers had in the game. They clearly thought that they would put out a decent product, and they want you to experience it for what it is. They want you to know what you're getting. I'm actually wondering what all they left out in that regards when we talk about like the comparison to the final game to the beta. Let's see. But here are my main takeaways from my experience with the game. This is a game that I think comic book fans are going to thoroughly enjoy, potentially. I'm not sure what the aspirations are with like PvP or how that will even work, but it's clear that they want you to play this game as an RPG with other folks against the environment. The potential in this game is through the roof, and I wish that I were a part of the advisory team because I have so many ideas. This game has the potential to be played over the course of multiple years, but this all depends on the commitment that they have to the game. I personally hope that this is a huge grind to play and level the characters up, and if they pay attention to the level of detail like they would do with the characters as they do to, let's say, the environment, the different levels, the missions, they have a chance to make the team play and like the coordination a huge part of the game, as it should be. So there's like this big strategy element with it that would be awesome. So this in combination, I guess, with the different, let's say, mentions of being creative with the levels is what I hope is really emphasized. I understand that other people want characters, what everybody's talking about. We're going to get Spider-Man for the PS4, all these different ideas for characters, which I will be doing videos. I promise you, I'm going to do videos now that I played the game on characters that I think would be cool to add like to this particular list. But that doesn't mean much. I get it. It's intriguing, but it doesn't mean much. It really means nothing if the levels, the missions, they aren't well thought out. They aren't like refreshing and there's no new content. I cannot stress enough how I love the actual gameplay. It's what I want. It's what I expect out of a comic book game for the current and next generation. They seem to at least care, that being Crystal Dynamics, about who the characters are, which brings about endless possibilities. Just give us a reason to play. Rare items, gear, new moves, higher level caps, thought-provoking strategy, fresh content. That will make this a very special and fun game. I'm not sure what all characters they have access to in terms of rights when it comes to Marvel, but if they had access, let's say, to the majority of Marvel's entire catalog, encyclopedia, you can imagine the vast amounts of ideas. This could move to different worlds and all sorts of things, different planets. So I hope they are as ambitious as I want them to be, because if they are, this is going to be a game that I'll be playing nonstop for a while. The action combat system is amazing, and I've always wanted Marvel to expand on this. The level of detail, I cannot stress this enough. I know I keep saying that, but look, man, the characters play differently. They are not the same. The characters are not the same, and that's how it should be. When we read the books and we fall in love with these characters, we know they're different, and we expect them, we visualize them to play different, and that's what this game does a great job of capturing with the limited amount of characters that we have. Now that I know that they can do this, the style combat system, the possibilities are endless. The only drawback that I can see is the lack of character customization in terms of how they look. This would have been a home run if you could actually create your own Avenger. Could you imagine a game with this, with the depth, let's say, of a DC universe online, but with this similar combat style and this similar gameplay, creating your own mutant or inhuman or powered being and being able to go around with your friends, leveling them up, doing missions and all sorts of things. That to me is the next generation of gaming, and I'd love for Crystal Dynamics or someone else to go that route. So what it really boils down to is, how ambitious are the developers? Are they really going to be ambitious at all with this game? How many characters are they going to create? How the raids? We really don't know. It does have a lot of Destiny to it, and say what you will about Destiny, but you know, Destiny has a lot to do, a lot of different things that you can do. But if they execute this well, will we get a second one? Let's say an Avengers 2. This is more focused on gameplay. This game here, and upgrading like the characters that they're just throwing at you. Would they entertain a more open world setting? Because as of now, you just drop into the missions. And we'll see. Look, I'm stoked to play the game, and I think this will be worth a pickup if you have a group of bros that are like comic book nerds. I do think that if you are just a guy that just wants to play a little beat 'em up game, I could see where it could be fun, but the draw of this game clearly is the fact that you can play with your friends in a cooperative setting. And I think to get the most out of this game, and that's what they expect really, is to play this with other people. And other comic book nerds that can appreciate it like you. I played it with one of my mods, Cheap City. He's another comic book guy, and we just had a blast playing that for 9 hours straight. We'll be playing it on this channel though, and I'll be doing a series of videos on it, like characters that I want to see create, what I think they need to do to, let's say, expand upon the game, what I think the future could hold for a game like this, considering that we're going to have a big hardware jump with the next generation of console gaming. So what could happen for the future? I'm going to be covering this because I'm so intrigued by this. So let me know what all kinds of videos that you'd like to see when it comes to Avengers and the Avengers game. I do also have all the Avengers, the Gamerverse comics, so maybe that's something that we can talk about as well, and get you guys thoughts on that. But just let me know, give me a holler. that is my review slash thoughts on the Avengers beta. Hope you enjoyed. Until next time, though, y'all be easy. Peace out.